Good morning. Good morning, Duke. Good morning, Duke.
I call on Valerie Ashby, Dean of Trinity College of Arts and Sciences.
Thank you, Provost Kornblue. Will the candidates for Trinity College of Arts and Sciences please rise?
My name is Matthew King, and I'm very grateful to the Senior Class Council for the chance to speak to you today. Sometimes I think Duke should have come with a warning label. Warning, you are entering a magical place.
Do you have any symptoms, any travel, any exposure?
I did not. Thank you.
One of my routines is walking to work. I love this commute because I get to schedule phone calls, listen to audiobooks and podcasts. It is a great way to start my day with some fresh air, a little bit of exercise, and in the mornings like today, record a video for you all. Greetings from the Pentagon courtyard. One of my favorite Duke memories was actually coming to the Pentagon. I was a freshman. I came with the Army ROTC program. It's one of my first times in DC as a Duke student. And there are 30,000 people who work here. And somehow, every single Duke alum found out that there was a group of about 15 Duke students roaming the halls. They circumnavigated the entire Department of Defense to find where we were meeting. They just wanted to say how much they love Duke and say hi. One of my favorite work routines is actually playing games. It's a great way to get to know your coworkers and also exercise your competitive side. At my last job, we used to play Catan every single week while ordering kava. We used to call it Catan and Kava Thursdays. In my current job, we have a chess bracket, and so everyone plays chess. There's like 4 boards in the office. It's a great way to get to know the people around you. One of the biggest realizations I had upon starting work in the real world is how different your perception of time becomes. Your life isn't measured anymore by 15-week courses or 9-month years, but in fact, time is indefinite. You have to take ownership over defining your own beginnings, like when to start a new job, when to move to a new city. But you also have to define your endings, like when to quit, when to move on to a better opportunity. It can be really overwhelming sometimes. You know, in a college course, if you don't like something, you can always persevere. It's only going to take 15 weeks, so it'll be over soon enough. But in the real world, sometimes that doesn't happen. The weeks turn into months, which turn into years, and you really do have to take ownership over starting and stopping. I think the different sense of time in adulthood also creates more opportunities to invest a lot more of yourself over a longer period of time. You're not just going to leave in 4 years, you have your entire life ahead of you. You can form really deep relationships with people and really stake ownerships and work on problems that sometimes take years to fix. Trust me, I work for the government. Some problems take a lot of years to fix. So it's kind of exciting, but it definitely was a change.
One small thing I miss about Duke is the Divinity School Cafe, especially the grilled cheese and tomato soup. I have a lot of fond memories of on Fridays after I finished up my classes for the week and meeting up for lunch with friends I hadn't seen in a while or professors from past courses to catch up. I like to work in the mornings before anyone else has woken up. Right now, I'm staying with my family outside of Pittsburgh because Harvard is still mostly remote. So what I'll do once I wake up is I'll walk on the treadmill for a little while, then I'll make myself something to eat for breakfast, take a shower, get dressed, and then go to work. The routine sort of helps get me focused and centered as I start my day. All right, welcome everyone to the last session of the American Politics Research Workshop for the 2020-2021 academic year. One big lesson I learned transitioning from the Duke undergrad experience is the importance of having time to yourself to relax and decompress. I think one thing about grad school that I was initially unprepared for was just how intense the academic experience would be, even compared to a rigorous undergraduate program like Duke's. Another thing that might be interesting to look at is that county and other local health agencies might play a much more significant role in the response to the virus when they have the administrative capacity to do so. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from my professors early on was how important it is to be as intentional and diligent about scheduling time to relax as you are scheduling time and prioritizing the work that you have to get done. But the capacity of these agencies might vary across a state. You could imagine that the bigger counties might have more sort of advanced health agencies, but the less populated ones might be relying on the state to guide their response. For me, those are things like spending time with my family, exercising, reading, or just taking time to sit back and reflect.
My routine for finding calm and focus in my days is to get outside at least one time every day. A lot of times what I like to do is to look up the time of the sunset and plan to go on a walk outside in my neighborhood for 15 to 20 minutes so I can see the sunset and look up at the sky, see the sky turning and all the lights come on in the city. One small memory from Duke that stays with me is always having the ability to be around my peers and my friends at all times of the day in both casual, social, and academic settings. For example, I remember loving to meet up with my friends in between classes and sit on the swingy benches on the BC Plaza, or sit on the big blue chairs on the plaza, or just hang out in one of the common rooms in Crowell. And that was really special to me, to be around so many amazing people at all times in such close proximity. One big lesson that I've learned transitioning from Duke into the working world is to remember to prioritize what's important to you and set those boundaries. At Duke, you have the ability to choose your classes, choose your schedule, and you have a lot of flexibility and control over how you go about your day and your week. And as a professional, sometimes you don't have that kind of control. You have other people who set your schedule a lot of the times. And I think one really important thing is to remember what's important to you and carve out time to do those things and set boundaries, whether it's related to health and wellness or social activities or just anything that's important to you.
A small memory of Duke that sits with me is going to the Biddle music rooms at night. You can hear the bands warming up. Sometimes you can hear the Duke marching band practicing. And there's something about hearing instrumentalists warming up that really gets me excited. I feel like I'm anticipating something exciting. Music really tethers me to memories. I also love just hearing other students practicing through the walls. It was almost always better than whatever I was doing. It's really cool to hear students honing their craft in real time. I would say that Duke students, in general, maybe not everyone, feel this pressure, either external or probably more likely from within, to fill up their free time with something that feels productive. And I think this comes from, you're really gunning for that next milestone. You want to get a good grade in the class, you want to get into Duke, you want to get into grad school. And when you graduate, that next milestone might not even be clear. You might not know what that is. For some of you, it might be true, but for others, it might not. And you might find yourself with this big empty space of time you've never had before. It is totally okay to have your leisure time be leisure time. You don't need to fill it with some professional activity. You don't need to professionalize your leisure time. You don't need to be uber productive with it. It is okay to relax, to do something totally creative, maybe not even something that you're very good at. It is okay to spend time with friends and, learning how to make friends when you're in a new city. That's its own skill that you have to sort of be compassionate towards yourself with, because your environment isn't necessarily structured in a way like Duke was for you to make friends immediately. This might be one of the first times in your life where you're not sure what to do with that big empty space. And it is okay to not write a novel in that time. You're not alone, and I'm pretty sure it's okay. I'm pretty sure. This is leisure. This is a rock.
One small memory that stayed with me at Duke is a D-Day staff ride where the American Grand Strategy program went to France, went to England, and we explored what D-Day was like with all of us playing roles in a traditional staff ride. A particular memory among that was going from the boat from Portsmouth over to France and to Normandy in particular, and having the wind swept back, everyone trying to be on sea legs, etc. But yet somehow everyone went up and with their Duke spirit gave their presentation, were boisterous, and hey, that same kind of presentation attitude, we do it no matter what. It kind of stayed with me today. I think after graduation, the key thing is staying engaged. At Duke, you're surrounded with tons of amazing opportunities to do fantastic things, and you'll find the same thing in professional environment, but you'll have to go out there and get them, and I think you all have the skills to do that from Duke. I'm really excited to see what you do next. Also, reach out. One of my most rewarding after Duke experience has been mentoring young professionals from Duke or current college students, and stay engaged by either mentoring others or reaching out to older Duke alums. I love the Duke alums I've worked with. I've loved the Duke alums I've talked to in general. Remember, stay connected to the Duke community. Well, mine focuses a lot on finding the right places to work, whether it's the classic Zoom background, whether it is finding a good spot and curling up with a hot chocolate with my laptop, especially during these COVID days. But my top secret thing is that I'm not working from any table. I'm actually working from a ping pong table. So one can play a little ping pong in between breaks, and finding that balance, I think, is important. In your career, you're off to exciting things, but your career is a marathon, not a sprint.
So I have a lot of small memories, so I'm just gonna list them all. So one, I really miss the silent disco on LDOC. It was always so much fun and something I look forward to every year. I miss, ironically enough, leaving pre-med finals and on a spring day, on a sunny day, walking with my best friends to the BC Plaza and treating ourselves to the snack of the day. For me, it was powdered sugar donuts was the go-to. I miss, sentimentally enough, the bus ride from East Campus to West Campus, because I lived off campus near East Campus my senior year. And I remember on most of the times that I was on that bus, I was stressed, I was on my phone, I was listening to music, I was talking to friends, I wasn't really paying attention to the ride. And I remember towards the end of senior year, I'd sit in the front and just look out the front as the bus would make that turn and go down towards the chapel.
My days pass quickly. From the time I wake up, I'm rushing from one task to another, one place to another, until I'm home. But even then, my mind will keep on racing until I slow it down. So, I cook. Cooking slows down the tempo of my life. It helps me feel present. After all, once garlic hits a frying pan, it's hard to think about anything but how hungry you are. I'm not the best cook, but that was never really the point. There are things we do for other people, and there are things we do for ourselves. This thing, I do for me. At the end of the day, what comes out of the mess I've made will be something I'm proud of. And that's what matters. In the Air Force, I work alongside all kinds of people, from every racial, religious, and economic background you can imagine. Most of them never attended a university as selective as Duke. But still, they have so many of the same qualities that Duke values. Integrity, creativity, a commitment to serve the greater good, just to name a few. They remind me every day that anyone can achieve great things regardless of where they come from or what they've accomplished so far. In fact, they're so good at what they do that they make me wonder, if my peers perform so well without the same education I have, then what sets me apart? What do I have to contribute? The answer to that is, I think, the most important lesson I've learned since I graduated. Duke students aren't exceptional because they do what others couldn't do. They're exceptional because they do what others never considered or never had the faith to attempt. In your time at Duke, you've learned skills that others assume are too difficult to master. You've traveled to places others assume they'll never go. You've challenged beliefs that others take for granted. In other words, you believe in yourselves, and you should. That's your advantage. There are plenty of intelligent people in the world, but what sets you apart won't be that you're smarter or more talented. What sets you apart will be that audacity to dream bigger and the faith to try. I remember how Big Mike, the bus driver, was always so encouraging to students. He'd greet everyone by name, like old friends. My conversations with him never lasted more than a few minutes at most, but they've stayed with me for years. And at the end, as I was stepping off the C1, Mike would always turn and gesture to me and say, "LG, life's good."
And that drive, I mean, it's the drive that my mom and I took when we went to Blue Devil Days. It's the drive my P-Build crew leader took the last night of P-Build. It was very sentimental, and it was like I made sure to do another loop down before I graduated. So that's something I miss. It's a beautiful campus, and always when I went down that stretch, it reminded me how incredible it was that I got to be at a school like Duke. I think it's much easier when you're in college to feel like you have this purpose and intent that is so clear, that you can see through the classes you take, that you can see through the extracurriculars that you do. And I think in the real world, I find myself now, a couple years out, really focusing on the parts of actually my Duke experience that felt the most meaningful, to try and figure out and get a better picture of what matters to me, what I find is meaningful in life, what my purpose is. And I think that it's really easy in the years post-grad to not think very critically about those things because they came so naturally in undergrad. And in a post-grad life, if you aren't the one to set your mission, your intent, your purpose, you let somebody else decide that for you. And that might be your employer, that might be the people around you, the friends you make. So I think that is something that I would really recommend. I wish that at the end of senior year, I just written down what were the parts of my college experience that felt the most meaningful, whether it be a class I took, an extracurricular activity, even a conversation where I felt like this is why I'm in this place in this moment. So I make sure I start every day before work to always read. And that could be 20 minutes, but it's never news-based. It's always a book. So it's either nonfiction, fiction, it's fine, as long as my brain is working in a different kind of way that doesn't feel tied to a laptop.
Hi, Papa. In 3 days, I'm going to be done with my master's degree. That's going to be a great feeling.
You won't know what to do with yourself.
That's right.
One Duke memory that has become even more meaningful for me since graduating
is auditioning for solos with my a cappella group, Duke Rhythm and Blue.
L is for the way you look at me.
O is for the one I see.
V is very, very extraordinary.
Is it even more than anyone that you adore?
Can love is all that I can give to you.
Love is more than just a game. It's just a game for
Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Was made for me and you. Doom, 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 da doom, 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 da doom, doom, L-O-V-E, 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 Jono, Jono, Jono.
O is for the way you look at me.
O is for the only one I see.
V is very, very extraordinary.
Is even more than anyone that you adore can love.
Is all that I can give to you.
Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart and please don't break it. Love was made for me and you.
Love was made for me and you.
Love was made for me and you.
That was an experience that taught me the importance of practice and preparation, but also how to take criticism and how to fail. Those skills have been incredibly valuable in my current work in journalism and in research. There are plenty of paragraphs and even whole stories that get left on the cutting room floor. In fact, that's how it should be when you have lots of good people looking out for you.